Good evening. Welcome to the Tuesday, September 10th regular City Council meeting. D. Stiles Elliott, City Clerk, would you please call roll?
Mayor Benjamin.
Present.
Councilmember DeLira.
Here.
Councilmember Fajarin.
Here.
Councilmember Gaither. Councilmember Guido.
Here.
Councilmember Parks.
Here.
Councilmember Weller.
Present.
Councilmember Wright.
I'm sorry. Here.
Councilmember Gaither requested to be excused for this meeting. If I could entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
On to announcements. A number of announcements tonight. First, tomorrow the City of Pullman will be holding a 9/11 memorial ceremony. Police and fire procession will start at 10 a.m. at Pullman City Hall. It will circle around Pullman, then return to City Hall for a short flag ceremony, which will start approximately at 10:50 near the flagpole. The second of 5 open houses discuss potential changes in Pullman City zoning code and gather input on the public on types of middle housing they support in the neighborhoods will happen at Jefferson Elementary School on Military Hill on Thursday, September 12th from 6 to 8:30 p.m. The third open house is not Hill specific, but will take place on Wednesday, September 18th from 11 to 2 in City Council chambers. The public is welcome to attend any of these open houses. There will be an airport road improvement project design open house on Wednesday, September 18th, 7 p.m. at Pullman City Hall in the council chambers. This is a chance for the public to provide input on the design phase of the airport road improvement project. The public is welcome to attend virtually, and the link is available on the city's website. The city crews will be out testing large water meters throughout the week, both commercial and residential zones in Pullman, so just so you're aware. Also, crews will be fixing potholes around Pullman this week, so traffic disruptions should be minimal, but please slow down and give workers a break. And in the same line, crews will be filling cracks in the walking path that goes through downtown between the WSU Visitor Center and Stadium Way this week. Weather permitting, work will be underway from Wednesday, September 11th through Friday the 13th, and the path will be closed during this time. For Project Downtown, the Main Street and Paradise Street closures will continue to be during to Spring and Daniel Street through at least mid-September to facilitate installation of water, sewer, and stormwater lines. On to Parks and Rec, the Teen Center activities start at Pullman Parks and Rec September 16th from grades 6th through 8th. Activities will happen daily on weekdays and include arts and crafts, basketball, cooking, games, homework, help, and more. You can visit parksandrec.com for more information on pullmanparksandrec.com for that. And the Pullman Aquatic Center is holding a Swim Through the School Year sale through September 30th. This deal gives you access to the pool and the fitness center through June 13th, 2025 at a great price. And you can visit pullman-wa.gov/school-year-swim for more information. And also at Parks and Rec on this Thursday will be a ribbon cutting from Mary's Park. It'll be at noon. And it's exciting. That's our first all-accessible park, so we're very excited to be able to have that project done and to be able to do the ribbon cutting on it. And then at the library on Wednesday, September 18th, Neal Public Library is hosting a presentation and Q&A and meet and greet with Dion Leonard, author of Finding Gobi and his dog Gobi. Both the author and youth editions of Finding Gobi will be available for purchase, and readers can get their copies autographed and potographed. I haven't heard of potographed before, but...
Oh, that's cute.
So since Gobi will be there, Gobi will help sign the book too. That completes our announcements. On to the next item is non-agenda related community comments. This agenda item is the first of 2 opportunities during this meeting for the public to bring comments to the attention of elected officials. Specifically, this item is reserved for public comment, concerns, or other information not related to a previous public hearing or final agenda item. Is there anyone who would like to provide public comment tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on to city. Oh, I'm sorry. Could you please come up? And you'll have 2 minutes at the microphone.
Before I address, can I ask some of the council real fast? So I'd like to ask you about last week, there was an American that was killed. He was tortured, shot in the back of the head, and executed, and no one in America is saying anything. I'd like to, after I'm done my speech here, I'd like to ask if I could have 40 seconds so I could play a clip of his mother's eulogy and then 5 seconds of silence after that.
This is a public comment time for you to provide public comment for that. If you go pause the timer for it. And if there was something that you requested, that's something that needed to be requested ahead of time to be able to be played. And since that was not, since we did not receive that we're not able to play
I'll
it.
try and do it within my time frame.
Okay.
A few weeks ago, a good colleague and friend of mine, Juliet, took the time to come down from Spokane to speak with all of you about a particular Islamic extremist imam in our community here that has literally called for the death of Jews. This is, I'll be honest, like my family and I go to Bosnia, and we have Muslim family friends that we go to see every other year there. And this is the first time I've had people in Arabic say behind my back at the grocery store, Jewish pig or Jewish dog, and this is coming from this imam. This is where they're teaching it from. I would like to play the portion of the eulogy, if that's all right with you.
My way is free. And I will, okay, sweet boy, go now on your journey. I hope it's as good as the trips you dreamed about, because finally, my sweet boy, finally is free. I will love you and I will miss you every single day for the rest of my life. But you're right here. I know you're right here. I just have to teach myself how to feel you in a different way. And Hirsch, there's one last thing I need you to do for us. Now I need you to help us stay strong. And I need you to help us survive.
I knew Hirsch, so and if you look at my shirt here, it's called a kriya. It's Jews do this to show mourning, and I have worn these Bring Them Home dog tags since October 7th. So I hope that you guys will I'm going to send you some information about that, and Juliet is going to be contacting you, and I beg you to listen to her. She is an expert in what she talks about. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else that has public comments tonight? If not, on to city council member comments, and I'll start with Eric. Councilmember Fajarin?
No comment.
Councilmember Parks?
No comment.
Councilmember Wright?
No comment.
Councilmember Guido?
No comment.
Councilmember Weller?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to address some communications that have come to me. A constituent has had some issues with fines with a certain ordinance that we had passed a while ago with restriction of inside furniture being placed in the outside. And at the time, this has been happening, I know, for several months and even into last year. Most recently, it was about $4,000 fine for the furniture. The reason, and I've talked to him about this before, this is the important thing about the ordinance, is to improve the look of neighborhoods. And he's managing one of the properties where there's college students. And the thing that kind of struck me, because that was the spirit of what we were doing with that ordinance, was this particular one was the furniture that I was told was in the back yard, surrounded by a fence. And I actually drove by to look at the property, and it's very difficult to see in the backyard in the first place. It's my feeling that perhaps it would be best for us to bring this up, and I'll suggest this under new business, and I would appreciate any council member who feels similar support that. I don't believe it was in the spirit of the ordinance when we passed it, and seems a bit of an overreach on our part. And this is not, the Pullman Police Department's fault at all. We passed the ordinance, the council passed the ordinance. And if it's shifting into more of kind of a, it seems overreach to me, but that's why I'd like to get the opinion from law enforcement on it. I know personally, I place outside furniture on my deck, including my TV, to kind of enjoy the night air. And I'm kind of, worried about that. It's out of people's eyes, but at the same time, it is outside. And so perhaps if we could kind of look at this again, and maybe if there's a better idea about it. So I'm sure the police will have better information, but those were my comments regarding that. So, thank you.
Councilmember DeLera?
No comment in general, but just referring back to what Nathan said, it sounds like we wanted to have a discussion under new business around this today.
That would be
I'm
under,
sorry.
that would be under future council requests is what this would be addressed to. And this would be addressed to the ordinance, not related to any action that's been taken. So with that, I have no comments. And then the next item is future agenda requests. And I'll start with Councilmember Weller, since you've expressed that you do have one. Do you have a request for a future agenda item?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd appreciate us being able to look at this particular ordinance. Unfortunately, I don't have the ordinance number in front of me, and possibly hear from code enforcement and their opinions, if that's possible. I think that would maybe aid in clarification.
I'm sure code enforcement would be happy to come present you the deal, but I don't think you're going to get opinions from the staff on it, but they can answer technical questions about enforcing the code.
Perfect. Thank you.
Dad?
I believe it's Pullman City Code 5.01.050, subsection 19.
Super. Thank you.
So, so we have an interest, and I'd need a second council member that also express interest in having that come forward.
Second.
So, okay. So we'll work on getting that onto a future agenda item. Are there any other items? Okay. Seeing none, we're on to community council comments on final action items. So this agenda item is the second two opportunities during the meeting for public to bring comments to the attention of the elected officials on any agenda item that the city council will take final action at this meeting, excluding items where public comment has previously been accepted. Is there anyone who would like to comment on any final action items? Seeing none, we're on to confirmation of appointments. I've provided you three names that I'd like to have confirmed for the DEIB committee.
Move to confirm.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so sounds great. Okay, next on to the consent agenda. The items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature, will be enacted by a single motion of the City Council without separate discussion. I entertain a motion to read the consent agenda by title only.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So with that, if you could read the consent agenda, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item is a motion to dispense with the reading of the August 27, 2024 regular meeting minutes and approve them as submitted. Item 2, a motion to approve disbursements for accounts payable checks numbered 2011-2391 through 2011-2426 totaling $143,825.26. Item 3, a motion to approve disbursements for accounts payable checks number 2011-2427 through 2011-2497, totaling $252,120.33. Item 4, a motion to approve disbursements for accounts payable checks, electronic transfers, and ADP payroll transfers totaling $1,126,503.66. Item 5, a motion to authorize the submittal of a capital grant application for 2 electric transit buses through the state's consolidated grant program. And finally, item 6, resolution number R-56-24, a resolution accepting a public sidewalk easement granted by JMT Estate Investments LLC, authorizing the execution of said easement and providing for other matters properly related thereto.
Do any council members desire to have any items removed from the consent agenda to be discussed separately? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
With that, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Next, we're on to our agenda item, and we have Kurt Damon up related to a resolution adopting the Pullman Hometown Heroes banner program. With that,
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. Before you this evening is a resolution to adopt the City of Pullman Hometown Heroes banner program and policy and guidelines to go with it. A little bit about the program. The Hometown Heroes program is a partnership between the City of Pullman and the Maynard Price Post 52 American Legion here of Pullman. The purpose of the program really is to provide the opportunity for community to recognize and honor Pullman residents and their immediate family members who have served or currently serving in the United States Armed Forces. The Hometown Heroes banners would be displayed from a Vista-owned utility poles. We have kind of designated Fairmont Drive in that area from Grand, South Grand, from Arby's over to Bishop Boulevard by the hospital there. Kind of the purpose of selecting this is one, its proximity to our proposed site for Veterans Park, and it's also right along the cemetery. And just a kind of it's not really built out next to the road, so I think banners would be really displayed well there. So here's an example of another town's hometown banner that was sent to us by a third-party vendor that we would look at using commercial grade vinyl. And a little bit back to the utility poles by Vista. There's currently, I think, 24 along there that we could utilize, and we have got authorization from Avista Utilities to use those poles. So at this time, I kind of want to introduce retired Navy Captain Mike Bisbee. He has been instrumental, along with Ted and other folks of American Legion, in bringing this program forward to us for your consideration. I did mention that Mike is retired, so he's in the middle of a campground in Oregon, so hopefully his service is sufficient here. So Mike, go ahead.
All right, thanks, Kurt. I do appreciate it, and thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council members, for allowing me to come into this meeting via LL Stubb Stewart State Park over in Oregon. As Kurt mentioned, I'm a retired Navy. I retired in 2021, and after 25 and a half years of service in the Navy, and unlike most of my other peers who are more ambitious than myself, instead of getting a second career, I decided to buy a RV and travel the country and try to make up lost time with my wife. But during my last spring travel, we were traveling through parts of upstate New York and came across these banners in a small town. And, just sort of took me back, especially as a veteran. And then we came across another small town in New York, and then another in Ohio. And then in Rapid City, South Dakota, we saw them there as well. And I was just thinking, this is something that's obviously catching across the nation here. It is something that I'd like to try to bring here to Pullman, to have it add to the sort of the charm of the small town, bring some civic pride to the community, recognizing our veterans and the service that they have performed, and who knows, perhaps even inspire, some young person out there to serve him or herself. And then, as Kurt mentioned, being on Fairmount Drive, really this would be a great opportunity to sort of highlight the Veterans Park there. And so people would see that as they're coming through or driving up, and, perhaps that would encourage them to donate and help with that park. So hopefully Starlink was doing me right and you guys are able to hear all that. I do apologize for this. This is part of the camping experience, but I'll take any questions if you have them.
Any questions? Councilmember Weller.
More of a comment. Captain, Michael, I want to say thank you so much. This is really awesome. And to our department head, sorry, it's late for me. Can we put these also throughout Pullman, like downtown? Is there a possibility later on to not only do it, on that area, but throughout?
Yeah, I think in our guidelines here, so the guidelines here are really kind of a starting point for us. We kind of searched other examples. We got comments back from the city administrator. The mayor has provided some as well. And I think Fairmont is one of the areas we definitely want to start just because of the proximity to Veterans Park and the cemetery. And it does say that, we can look at other areas, certainly. I think we want to kind of try to maximize that space, and then, certainly maybe look at places going down Grand or others as well. Or Davis Way, even as coming into Pullman, I think would be another nice one as well.
Great. Thank you, Kurt, and enjoy camping. You deserve it.
Councilmember Parks.
Thank you so much.
I have more of a technical question. It says that the banners are two-sided. So is there different veteran on each side?
Our intent right now, I think, they'd be same individual on both sides.
Okay.
Yeah. Some places, I think, where they're limited, they do two people on a banner. I think our intent is to, two-sided.
And then is I assume that Chief Weatherly's committee, how are we choosing? Or have you gotten there yet?
So there's a kind of eligibility that we've started with here.
Okay.
I guess.
I guess any idea on how many potential veterans we would have so far, or is that too early?
Too
soon?
early.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're really just, this is kind of our first step here is to get the program adopted and then start getting the application process set up and getting the word out about the program. So
Great.
you can see here, this is kind of the eligibility of what we started with.
Yes.
Active, retired, or honorably discharged of 6 recognized armed force branches. Applicant must be, City of Pullman. We started here with Pullman High School, brought up, graduated from a Pullman High School or homeschooler while living in Pullman. Applications and memorandum will be considered as well. We talked about the location of the banners. I think in further conversation, we had said a minimum of 6 months or maximum of 2. I think we'd like the cost of this is $250, so we kind of want to make it worth its while. So we said to 3 years or until the banner starts to show deterioration.
Okay.
Sponsorship as well. I think this was a little restrictive, the first paragraph that you saw here. So payments will be made to the City of Pullman, deposited into a Hometown Heroes banner program account and administered by the Parks and Rec Department. So So there's just, procedures of how applications would be submitted, people notified, what they must submit, and then just our waiver and limitations on that. So again, this is kind of a starting point. I think if there is any feedback, we'd take it and probably then just bring this agenda item back in a couple of weeks as a consent agenda item and formally adopt this policy. Any other questions for Mike or myself?
I just want to say I appreciate this program and the opportunity this provides, and to be able to recognize those that have served. And Mike, I've enjoyed getting to know you through Kiwanis in the last years in your service. You definitely have, you and your wife have a service dedication to the community, and I appreciate that. So we'll bring this back under the consent agenda. If there's any, is what I'm hearing you saying is bringing it back as opposed to formally adopt it now. It's a regular agenda item, so we can adopt it with those changes.
Okay.
If the council would like. So there's some recommended changes that Kurt outlined. That was, one was to expand it so it was any high school graduate as opposed to just a Pullman High School graduate, to be able to provide the opportunity for the memorial, and then also the fund restriction, to make it so it's not as restrictive as it is. So if you're happy with that, I'd entertain a motion for approval with those changes. Otherwise, we can bring it back at a later meeting.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. Enjoy the rest of your camping time, Mike.
I will. Thank you, sir.
Our next item is a discussion item, which is continuing our discussion on the 2025 legislative agenda based on the comments that were made at our last city council meeting. I've then brought back a revised for our 2025, and so this is an opportunity for continued discussion on this. And let me get that item up. And so with that, with the legislative agenda, you notice one of the things that was talked about at the last meeting was to create more white space in it, because it was very, very dense. And the comments that we get from our legislators is that if it's too dense and there's not white space, they just don't read. They don't read very much of it. And so what I did was I took the item, and then I've created so you have a one-pager that would be the agenda item priorities, and then there's a second page that is really our talking points that we would use to discuss why we feel the way we do about these areas. And with that, any discussion from council? Councilmember Parks.
Thank you. Council, excuse me, we received a memo from Chief Opkin North related to the policing, maybe did we remove it? Reassess the Blake ruling?
Right, to remove the Blake.
So, sorry. Okay, so never mind, we did it.
Yeah.
It's,
So it'd be under the talking points portion.
oh, okay. He reminded me anyway, that there was a House bill that was passed that did address that issue. And so I didn't know if the other, Senate bill, excuse me, the other council members saw that and how we feel about that. It was an email that we received last week.
So what I would recommend is if you're acceptable, to accept his recommended amendments to it, changes.
Yeah, I just didn't know if it were, so yes, I would like to consider, I don't know, where my words are just gone, accepting Chief Opkin North's recommendation that we don't, but that's already been addressed as far as the department is concerned.
Okay.
and then focusing on statewide is for recruitment, hiring, and retention, that we could make that be.
So do you want that under the talking points, or is that additional that you want?
Well, I guess the talking points, or could we put it under policing, under the, provide the tools necessary for our police to enable them to more easily, to provide support for recruiting, hiring, and retention,
Okay, great.
something like that? And Chief, I appreciate your pointing that out to us. Thank you. Did you have a comment, anyone?
Okay. Others?
Oh,
So Councilor Madalera, and then,
Yeah, under the, I guess, the legislative priorities, but not the talking points, I want to maybe see maybe a little bit more significant wording change for tuition in higher education to be more encapsulating around the idea that affordability for of an education is not just tuition, but also making sure that students have the needs to means to survive, not just survive, but also thrive in their studies by making sure that their basic needs are met, so such as food, housing, and childcare. So I'm wondering if in the legislative priorities we could have wording such as changing the title from tuition for higher education to affordable higher education, and the content would be support accessibility and affordability of higher education by continuing to fund and expand tuition reduction programs like the Washington College Grant and basic needs resources / programs through the Post-Secondary Basic Needs Act. So that's the wording I would like to officially see in that, in the legislative priorities.
so Council, how do you feel about that? So changing it from tuition to instead?
Instead, changing it from tuition for higher education to affordable higher education with the wording I just said.
So I just have a quick question. As far as the role of the city doing this, I feel like this is more of, and not to say I don't agree with it or want it, but is it more appropriate for this to come from WSU or groups on WSU? Because I'm not sure, and honestly, I'm not sure what the city's role as far as our budget or our activity how would we impact those outcomes?
Yeah. Oh.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so students make up a disproportionately large portion of the Pullman population. And we are also their representatives, not just WSU. So I think we have a duty to make sure that they have a presence in our legislative priorities. And also, for instance, the Post-Secondary Basic Needs Act has a component in there so that students know that there are also resources within our city, not just WSU. So I think we need to have a presence of students in our legislative priorities and support their asks.
Just so, again, I just want to make sure they understand that we can't, it's not, like, yes, we can ask our legislators for it, but we don't really have a way to have a tangible impact except for just asking. If that's okay, then, you know what I'm saying? Does that make, I don't think we do.
Continuing, are you on this subject too? Okay.
I will say also, I know WSU will likely be asking for this already, probably Spokane Fall, I'm not sure, but providing a further voice to support what they're
Sure.
already asking for, it just more team,
Sure,
team
and that's fine.
members.
I just want to make sure there wasn't a different expectation. Thank
Now,
you.
with the two, you called out two specific programs, and those programs again are
So that would be the Washington College Grant, and then the Post-Secondary Basic Needs Act, which hosts like a suite of programs like a pilot food security program.
But is, on that one, is that a federal or is that a state program?
That's a state program,
Okay,
and that was passed.
because one of those that you gave me earlier was a federal program, wasn't a state program.
Which one?
I'd have to go back to your, okay, so if you can send me.
Yes.
Send me that.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing is that there's support from council to make that change. Okay? Other areas? Councilmember Weller.
So I don't know if this is something that we more need to, that we may need to look into or research further, or even if this is something that anybody else is interested in. When I was at the Humane Society, they had discussed certain laws that are kind of, it's providing a difficult situation for them to provide services. Animals are being returned by repeat offenders, of people who get fosters, bring them back, get them again, bring them back. And so it's providing, it's a difficult situation for them. I don't know all of the information, but this was provided to the staff by our police department, that there's little that they can do because it's at the state level. Now, I don't know, I think this is already a really, really good list, so I don't know that I would necessarily want to put more to it, but I do think it's something that we should look into it, because not only is it, as somebody who has a bleeding heart for these situations, it kind of, you know, it hurts, but then also on top of it, it also provides a lot of, you know, we're helping the Humane Society, and the police are providing those services to bring animals to the Humane Society. So even from a very bottom line budget item, it is making it difficult on the city. So I'm bringing it up because it is a part of legislative, but I don't know that I know enough at this time to necessarily suggest it.
What I would recommend is under the community support areas where we have business, economic development, what if we did business / nonprofit / economic development? And then in the points where our businesses are struggling against non-business friendly legislative and agencies, put our businesses and nonprofits are struggling.
That's really good. I like that. And there was just one other thing, if I could add. So under health, in our reasons section, support grassroots efforts to create a regional, I like that, but I would also say instead support grassroots efforts, including the creation, because one thing that is happening at the grassroots is we're trying to build support, small, rapid teams to respond to like suicide or health crises. So if we could do including, expanding it, yeah, just a little bit. Yeah,
So now we're on the talking points where it says support grassroots efforts to create a regional. So you're saying support grassroots efforts including?
Yeah, if that's.
Including the creation of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm supportive of that, and I was also the one that advocated for the direct mention of the substance abuse disorder, but I realize there's other efforts. But if we could just, as Councilmember Weller says, add including, I think that should cover it.
Supports grassroots efforts, including the creation of a regional substance abuse disorder recovery center.
Great. Thank you.
Other items. Councilmember Delira?
Yeah, so I guess this would likely go under the talking points, but I still want to advocate for renters' concerns around high rent. So I'm hoping that we could, under the talking points, have wording such as high rent makes it difficult for families and young professionals to afford home ownership. So we advocate for programs and policies such as rent assistance programs and rent stabilization to help those who are cost burdened by their rent. So I'm hoping some form of wording around some version of what I just said verbatim is makes it to the talking points.
Councilmember Fajarin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would support Councilmember De Lira's recommendation of adding renters' concerns in the talking points, whether it's rent stabilization or the wording that she included, considering that a majority of the households in Pullman are renters. I think that would be well worth us including some language in there.
Other discussions?
I would be supportive of that as well, recognizing that.
I would recommend that we keep it broad in context as opposed to specific in it. I know the rent stabilization was something that was debated within the AWC's priorities, and it did not advance because of other things that they were looking at. And in the midst of it, we just need to make sure that we don't put too much in. So I would keep it broad and understand there's going to be a lot of different opportunities between. So, Councilmember De Lira, if you can send me that context so I can put it in here. Under that talking point, under the housing affordability. Any other? Councilmember Weller?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. I did have one other thing that I'm not sure where we would add it, if we even want to add it, but increasing poverty and homelessness. I think we've had that in past legislative priorities, and I feel like we need to continue to have some mention of support of programs to assist with poverty or homelessness. I know we don't have as large of problems as, for instance, Spokane, but we're a growing city. These are going to be growing problems.
So are there specific asks that you have for the legislature? Yeah, I'm trying to fit, how do I fit it into our ask when we go to the legislature? Yeah. I mean, it definitely is something we could put down here, but what would that ask look like?
I know, and at this time, I'm sorry, I don't have.
Okay, and the ask should be, these should be things that specifically relate to Pullman. You under.
Yeah. No, I get it. Like I said, some support of poverty resources or homelessness resources.
Council's thoughts?
I'm okay with that. I think we need to, you were going to put it under housing, is that your suggestion?
I'm not really sure whether it would fit under housing and affordability or community. I'm not.
Well,
Mr.
it's a housing issue.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense.
True.
Under our priority areas, we're really focused on housing costs.
Yeah.
What we have done is we've expanded the talking points to be more than just housing costs within this, and unfortunately, it's not just housing costs are the issues when we're getting into systemic things related to homelessness. And so I'm trying to figure out where do we put it in. There's specific under housing, but it also fits under health too.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So thoughts?
I think it's more inclusive under housing.
So if we added a point under housing that's going to relate to homelessness.
Yep.
And poverty, please.
And poverty.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember De Lira?
So I'm not sure if this would fit under the affordable higher education section or under business economic development, but this does address childcare for graduate and professional students. So I know that they're currently not. So GPSA is advocating for graduate and professional students in the work exemption for the Work Connection childcare program. I could get more details on that, but that's one of the things that I'm hoping we could include under the talking points.
Because we have under business and economic development that work to reduce childcare costs and advance affordable childcare options.
Okay.
So we have it there. And is it a specific bill that you're wanting us to support?
Yeah,
I'm trying, and has that bill already dropped?
I could send you some more information, but I think it is related to a bill. I can probably ask GPSA for more information on that specifically.
Because I don't know if it's a bill or if it's something. If the bill hasn't been dropped, then it makes sense to keep it the way it is, and that's just part of. Then when we're there, we can, since we've identified this, then we can use that as an example. Because our talking points, realistically, as bills drop, they're going to become part of the talking points within this. So if you can send that, and I can see under business, the housing child care costs. Okay. Others? Councilmember DeLira.
I just want to revisit and make sure I'm understanding what we're advocating or pushing for in terms of the Blake ruling. Could someone, maybe on council, review what is the final wording related to the Blake ruling?
So that was related to my question earlier to what Chief North sent us. I believe Mike forwarded it to, or sorry. Oh, sorry. Anyway, we were forwarded a message on September 5th about that Chief North had said that there's a Senate bill that has passed that has essentially takes care or solves the Blake ruling issue. And so he recommended that we didn't necessarily need to have it be a priority anymore.
So it gets taken out.
Is that okay?
Any others? Okay, so in the next day, can you please send me your different statements so that I can work to put this together? And then if we look at within our schedule, this would then come back to us for approval later this month so that we can then send it out to our 9th District delegation prior to us meeting with them so that as we prepare for meeting with them, this gives us stuff to start preparing for. With that, then on is, do we have any, we don't have any new business before us. So with that, we're then going to go to executive session. So at this time, City Council will adjourn to executive session pursuant to RCW 4230-10-1I to discuss with legal counsel representing the city matters related to agency enforcement actions or to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency potential litigation concerning litigation that agency responsibly believes may be commensurate or by or against the agency, the governing body, or member acting in official capacity, or litigation or legal risks of a proposed action or current practice of the agency, has identified when the public discussion of litigation or legal risk are likely to result in an adverse legal or financial consequence of the agency. When the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Act do not apply, while the provisions of Open Public Meeting Act do not apply to discussions related to the interpretation or application of labor agreement or that portion of the meeting during which the governing body is planning or adopting the strategy or position to take during the course of any collective bargaining, professional negotiation, or grievance remediation proceedings, or reviewing proposals made during the course of negotiations or proceedings, the City Council is announcing its intent to discuss such matters in executive session. The executive session is expected to last 10 minutes. If it becomes necessary to extend executive session, someone will return to announce the anticipated additional time needed for City Council. The Council does not anticipate taking action following the executive session. It's 7:50 right now, and we'll start at 7:53.
City Council is going to extend their executive session for 5 minutes. 5 minutes, it's 8:03, that will be 8:08. City Council is extending their executive session for 2 minutes. 2 minutes. It is 8:08. City Council is extending the executive session for 2 minutes. 2 minutes. It is 8:10. City Council is extending the executive session for 3 minutes. 3 minutes. It is 8:12.
Calling the council meeting back into session at this time. I'd accept a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.